When we're mixing, we have to trust our ears, but sometimes we trust them a little bit too much. Depending on our environment, how long we've been working, and a multitude of other factors, sometimes our ears can deceive us. This is where reference mixes come in and can not only help you regain perspective on your mix, they can also help shape the direction of your mix. Now, reference mixes are great, whether you're just getting started in mixing or whether you've been doing it for a long time. I did go through a phase where I was a bit stubborn to this and decided I don't need reference mixes anymore. I'm a good enough mixer, it doesn't matter. But as soon as I started using them a little more frequently again, I realized just how much better and easier it made my overall mixing process. Now, that being said, there are a few things you do have to keep in mind when using reference mixes, especially if you're just getting started with them. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. What is up, guys? Alex from ANAK Creates here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about why using reference mixes is so important and how it can be so helpful to your mixing no matter what skill level you're at. We're going to talk about how to pick the right songs to use as references, what to actually listen for in reference mixes, and what to not listen for and kind of ignore out of reference mixes, because they're never a perfect one-to-one comparison to your track, so we're going to talk about how to use them properly. And at the end, I'll talk about how to actually set them up in your mix, a very simple way, but just how to make sure that you're getting the most out of your reference mixes. So first off, just briefly, why should you use reference mixes? I have 3 reasons why I really like to use reference mixes. First off, it can help you regain perspective and kind of recenter yourself while you're mixing. After either some big changes or just after mixing for a long period of time, you can often misjudge where your track is sitting relative to where you were or where it needs to go. Number 2, they can help guide sonic qualities in your mix. It can help you understand where your track is sitting relative to other tracks in this genre, or it can help guide you towards a certain sound that you're striving to achieve. And number 3, it can help show you your own progress. Sometimes after a long period of mixing, you don't really know where you were in the last version of the mix or where you started this morning. So it's always helpful to be able to toggle back and forth and really understand the moves that you've been making, what they've been doing, for better or for worse. So when I say reference mixes, what tracks am I talking about that you should use as reference mixes? To me, there are 3 different types of reference mixes that you could use, each with their own distinct purpose, and I'll talk more about the purpose in a moment. First are the previous versions of your mix. This can help you understand better where your mix was, what progress you've made, and possibly what mistakes you've made along the way. Second is the rough mix of a song. Being able to hear what the client or artist was hearing when they first gave you the song can help you gauge where they see different elements living in the mix, whether something's really pulled back in the background or whether it's really forefront, or just different effects that they have throughout the track. This helps inform you what they were hearing so that you can keep your decisions in the same vein if necessary. And number 3 is commercial mixes, and this is what most people think about when they think of reference mixes. This is when you pick already released songs to help compare and guide your mix. Now, when you're picking the songs you want to reference, there are a couple things to keep in mind. You don't just pick random songs. First, pick songs that you know and trust sonically to help guide your sonic bearings. Second, picking songs in a genre that's the same or similar to what you're going for helps you with your sonic bearings within that genre as well. And third, you can pick songs that have a specific sound that you are actually going after. Now, when you are using commercial mixes, one of the biggest things to bear in mind is that theirs is mastered and yours is not, which means the volume has to be adjusted to kind of roughly relate to what you're actually working on, as well as the dynamics are probably a bit more squished than what yours is going to be. And that's okay. Just something to keep in mind. The more you use reference mixes and the more you go through this process, the better you will be at distinguishing what's the mix and what's the actual mastering. So when using reference mixes, what are you actually listening for? Now, this is obviously very subjective, but the overarching theme is when you're using reference mixes, have a point to why you're using them. What are you trying to learn from the reference mix and compare to your own mix? If you don't have a specific point that you can hone in on, you'll just get deterred because your mix isn't as loud and as big as theirs is, because once again, theirs is mastered and yours is not. So it's an uneven comparison, which means you need to know exactly what you're looking for within that mix. So for instance, here's a couple things that I think about when I'm using reference mixes and gauging where my mix is sitting. How are the vocals sitting? Are they too loud? Are they too quiet? Is the overall tone of the vocal kind of line up? And what's the relationship of the vocal to its effects? How's the kick and snare sounding? Is it too loud? Is it too quiet? How's it balanced with everything else? Is it too bottom end heavy, or is it cutting enough? And how's the overall drum tone? Are the drums too far forward or too far back? Is the cymbals too loud or too quiet? How's the bass of the track sitting? Is the bass instrument loud enough or too quiet? Is there enough bottom end that's actually defining the track? Or are you rolling off too much bottom end on different elements and thinning out the track too much? How's the stereo image of your mix? Is it too wide or not wide enough? Is there too much happening in the sides or too much clogging up the middle? And how are the overall dynamics of your song sitting? Is it too dynamic or not dynamic enough? And of course, what's the overall balance and relationship between different instruments in your mix? The key is to not get swept away in the exact volume of things, but more the relationship between different elements in your mix. The easiest way to start is zero in on different sections. Compare the verse to the verse and the chorus to the chorus. And then hone in on one or few elements at a time. How's the kick drum itself sitting and how's the snare drum sitting? Or how's the guitar tone overall? When you hone in on one element, you can actually hear the relationship to everything else, and that will help inform your own mix. If you just listen to the whole mix in general, all you're really going to hear is the overall mix and sonic quality and level, which, as we talked about, isn't really as relevant because their track's mastered and different sounding than yours is. But honing in on one or few elements at a time, you can actually understand what you're getting out of it to help your own mix. Now, when I set up my reference mixes, I like to put the actual reference track right in the session alongside my mix. When you play it back through Apple Music or Spotify in your computer, you're not sure where the volumes are actually sitting, and the quality may or may not be very good. So having it actually in your mix is easy to toggle back and forth and really understand how things are sitting with a more apples to apples comparison. Now, there are a bunch of different softwares that make this even easier and give you a whole bunch of different options to view and compare your tracks. And if you want me to go into more of these tools that I've used, please leave a comment down below. I would be happy to do some reviews on some of these plugins. But the most basic way, and frankly my most typical way of doing it, is to load up the reference track on another track in your DAW and to be able to toggle back and forth between the reference mix and your actual mix output. When you put the track in, make sure it's not going through your mix bus and is actually just straight out to the speakers. And when you first put it in, do a little bit of setup and match the volumes a little bit closer. But that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that got you started thinking about using reference mixes the right way, or a little reminder to actually use reference mixes. They can be so helpful when used the right way, but also very deterring if you use them the wrong way. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you in the next video. Till then, always be creating.